Thank you so much for joining us with the Mommy Care Kit. And today we're excited. We have Miss Helen Ozzy Doula. She's going to come up and she's going to share more information about doula, about a doula and how to pick a doula, which is very important during your pregnancy journey. So without further ado, Miss Helen, come on board and you can begin to share your screen and we'll get started. Thanks.
Okay, great. So I'm so excited to be here today to welcome you all and share my knowledge about how a doula can help you all in your pregnancy and birth and postpartum. So my name is Helen Herzig. I've been a doula for the last 13 years. My company is Aussie Doula. I started out about 13 years ago as a solo doula, and I have about 30 to 40 doulas on my team right now. We are based here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and there is a beautiful, thriving birth community here, and we are very happy to be able to serve our community here in Charlotte. So basically, I just wanted to go over what a doula can do for you and frequently asked questions that folks would have for a doula. So basically, the first thing is, what does a doula do? So basically, what a doula does is we are a non-medical person who is going to provide support to you and your husband or partner. That will be through emotional support, obviously in the birth room. That will be through also physical support before and during your birth, and then also educational support before you actually go into your birth zone. So I think it's very important. I was talking to Bree earlier before we started to let people know that my goal for you is to get you prepared and not scared to meet your baby. So knowledge is power. The more tools you have in your birth backpack before you meet your baby, I think is very important for you all. And we really, as doulas, want to take away any anxieties that you have perhaps going in before you meet your baby. We want to answer all those questions, alleviate any anxieties that you have, and that's done through the education of what we do. So basically, we can help you through that physicality of position changes in labor. It can be during acupressure in labor, which is basically touch points on your body that can help alleviate pain. Water in labor is a great tool. So we definitely recommend that you use the bath or water shower support during your labor. And there are so many other things that we can help to support you with that in that time. A lot of times people say, well, are doulas only for natural birth? So I don't know if we can open this up for questions. Is anyone preparing to have an unmedicated birth, or would you prefer to have a medicated birth, or are you unsure at this time? So,
The epidural, so, like, it looks intimidating and super scary, but from everything that I've seen, especially the ones that were not wanting to do anything medicated, that it just got to the point that they didn't even care anymore. So I think that I mean, unmedicated would be great. Like I said, I've heard a lot of horror stories regarding like the epidural and things like that. So I lean more towards holistic and natural than I would medicated. But I mean, I think that's just my ignorance of just kind of not knowing the options.
yeah, and honestly, if you don't know, you don't. A lot of people will say, "I don't know what I don't know." So when you hire a doula, we are that answer point. We're your cliff notes. We're helping you with all of these things as you're going through. Potentially, obviously, beforehand, we are hired. Either on when somebody does I call it the pee and the stick call, where people call us early in their pregnancy. Other folks reach out very late, so there's no too early, too late to hire your doula. But we're there to support whatever you want. So you may say, I think I want to have an unmedicated labor. And when you get into the birth zone, you may change your mind. So a doula should definitely be non-biased support to your family. I like to say that we are the queens of pivoting. So if you go in saying, my plan is to go unmedicated and then you change your mind. We are going to talk about that prenatally, to talk about what that looks like, and when, if you do decide you want to have an epidural, when would be the optimal time to have that. Because in labor there's always going to be, and I don't like to bring up the P word, but there is going to be pain. You know, there are not many people that have painless births, but there's a difference between pain and suffering. So in labor you will have pain, but you don't have to suffer, and that can be alleviated by natural methods such as breathing, affirmations, visualization, the pressure points, the water, things like that, position changes, or it could be through having an epidural. And an epidural is an amazing tool. You will never get judgment from your doula on what that looks like. So we just want to support you throughout the course of your pregnancy and to meet your baby. So a lot of times people will say, is a doula going to replace my husband or partner in the birth room? I think that's a big question, because if you're not sure what we're going to do, it's like, okay, so I like the analogy of a birth doula is like a bridesmaid in your birth. It's like a wedding. You're the bride, your husband is the groom or your partner. And we are your bridesmaids. So we're not going to take center stage. A doula should never be the big volume energy person in the room. The doula should be there to support the couple. So I like to say it's a beautiful, beautiful love story between you and your spouse to meet your baby. So you have that intimacy. He has the intimacy with you. You have, obviously, you together. We have the knowledge and the experience around the birth room. So what we do is we bring that calm into that room. So it's quite interesting to see when we come into the birth space, you know, we spend time with you prenatally. I'll kind of go over what that looks like to hire a doula. We go over that prenatally with you. And so when we come into the room, it's like you can see sometimes it's a physical relief with both the mum and the dad. So we're not just for you, we are definitely for your husbands and partners as well. And a lot of times folks say, gosh, especially the dads, they're like, I didn't realize how amazing that was going to be, how powerful, see the power, the beauty, and the awe in my wife. But it was so nice to have you there to go, is this normal? When dads are looking like, you know, maybe mum has this look of terror on her face, and dad's deer in the headlights, we'll be like, Dad, this is a good sign. When things look like in normal life that they're not looking great in labor, this is what we are wanting to see. And we're not terrible people that we like to see you in pain, but when we can see that you're really working, we're encouraging you. You know, we're there to help you find your power, to guide you in the power that you have. Women are amazing. You know, whether you do it unmedicated or medicated, women are fantastic. We can do all the things. Any kind of birth is amazing. It doesn't have to be natural. You don't get more points for being a natural and unmedicated as opposed to an epidural, as opposed to a C-section. So we would support you in any capacity. If things change so just an example, a mum may say, I really would like to have an unmedicated birth. So beforehand, we're going to plan for that. We're going to educate her on what things may change, what an epidural looks like, what a C-section looks like. And then if things change, she's not surprised in that moment of, okay, things are changing. I also like to give an analogy of, okay, in birth, you put out a deck of 10 cards and then something may happen along the way. Let's pull out 5 cards. So no, we don't have the same choices that we had before. So now doulas are a little bit, I think you're all a bit young for MacGyver. Rita, you may know MacGyver, but we're going to help figure out what the best course of action is now that we have maybe had some of our choices taken away from us. So doulas can do many, many different things. So we're there to support you and your husband. That's a big one. You know, we are available to serve I would say most of our families are in the hospital setting. I'd say 90% of our families are in the hospital setting. We do some home births, and we also support families in birth centres. So if a mum was having a birth centre birth and she had to transfer, we would be able to transfer from the home into the hospital setting because we are certified, we're valued members of of the team. We're not affiliated with any hospitals. I know in most of the country that's the case, but I know some hospitals do have doulas that are on staff in the hospitals. So that's something to consider as well. Any questions? I feel like I'm just sort of talking away here. Has anybody got a question?
Got any questions?
Candace?
Hi, Eve, and hi, Candace.
Hi, Candace. Hi, Eve. No questions from you ladies? Is anybody pregnant right now? I know that Bree, you are not currently pregnant.
Hi, no, and I'm not pregnant. I'm a doula.
You are? Oh, hey, Candace.
Yeah.
Well, you know all of this stuff. Whereabouts are you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Whereabouts are you? Where are you located?
Oh, so I'm in Indiana. I'm in Indianapolis.
Got
So
it.
I've been a doula now for over a year and like a certified lactation specialist since 2018. So
Excellent.
I'm always in a place of, learning and growing, even though you can never know too much. It's something you can always pick up and learn all the time. So I say I'm a forever student.
Honestly, I think the older I get, I just turned 60, and I think the older I get, the more I realize that we're students of life and we never graduate.
Yeah.
If we think we know everything about whatever vocation, whatever our hobby, I think you're dead in the water because we're not experts. Things are constantly evolving within the hospital system, with birth doulas or with hospitals, nurses, doctors. Things are constantly changing. So yes, we're never experts. So honestly, Candace, you've got a great head start with your doula career to be able to be supportive of the family. So I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. You look amazing for 60.
Sure do. Absolutely. I'm like, okay, Helen, I see you.
I'm trying. All my children have grown. I've got more time for me now. So there you go. That's my excuse.
Good for you.
So another question that a lot of people will have is, when does your doula join you? So generally, a doula will join a family in active labor. So that looks like when your active labor used to be 4 centimeters, now it's 6 centimeters. But there is still a lot of support in early labor that your doula can have with you. Usually, I'm just going to go kind of like how I would run my company. So usually what happens when we bring in, actually, I'm going to go back even further, what to look for. And I know that was the topic of what to look for in a doula. So there are a lot of doulas out there. There's a plethora, there's a glut of doulas now. So wherever you all are, there is a way to find a great doula. I started accidentally at 47 years old as a doula to a friend who said, I had a dream that you were my doula. Will you support me? And I said, I'm not a trained doula. I'm your friend. I went in, I supported her. The nurse said, you're the best doula we've ever had. So give me your card. Long story short, I didn't have one. I went to a childbirth education class that she was teaching. I immediately got 3 families. I got my training, and I just started to, organically serve families and doula clients. So my journey was very accidental, but I feel like it was a blessing from God that I was able to do this, and I have never regretted it since. You have to be a bit crazy to be a doula, but it's a good kind of crazy. So basically, if any of you are looking for a doula, I always say go to the look at the mum groups on your in your town. So for instance, there's Charlotte Mums here in Charlotte. There's, depending on what it is, mums of multiples, all sorts of things. So if you're looking for a doula, I would say go to ask referrals from maybe your chiropractor, pelvic floor specialist, obviously your OB, all of those kinds of folks that are in the birthing realm. And you will get some very unbiased. You can obviously get your doula via Google. We get a lot of referrals from the providers and the doctors themselves. But there are many ways for you to find your doulas in the community. You can always just Google doulas in my area, etc., and you'll find a lot. Questions to ask your doula would be, a big one is, how many births do you do per month, so that you can best support your family. So with my company, once we have 3 doulas on a calendar for that month, we take them off the availability schedule. So 3 doulas to me is a good amount that my doulas are able to serve their families, because there's lots of follow-up, there's lots of questions that you as families may be asking. And so basically we want to be able to support, families in a good way and not feel rushed. I was a crazy doula, and I took 8 to 9 clients a month back in the day when I was actively in the birth realm. But my family used to say, "Is mummy coming home?" So I said, "Okay, I can't do this all the time," and that's why I started my company. So, yeah, that's the way to look for your doulas. Things to ask for a doula when you do speak to one is, how long have you been a doula? What is, and I will say philosophy, but what is, I don't believe in a philosophy, because everybody has their own journey to go on with having a doula, and you don't want to have what your birth experience as a doula taint somebody else's experience. So it's really important for you to be non-biased and objective as you support your clients. So say, what are great things? What's a good thing? What's a positive thing that you've seen in the birth realm? How many clients do you take per calendar month? Do you have good backup, good support? I think that's very important. Within my company, I already have pre-existing backup. We back each other up, so there's no worries or concerns that you're not going to get your doula. How does your doula have childcare? If she has children herself, is she going to be able to come out the door at the drop of a hat to be able to support you in that birthing time? So there are lots of different questions that you can ask your doula. Candace, have you got any other ones that maybe people would ask you? I'm putting you on the spot there. She there?
Yes, I'm here. You said to ask me what?
Yeah, and what would you say was important, a good question to ask if somebody was hiring you as a doula?
I always, kind of like meet people, like see where they are, kind of fill it out depending on the age. Like my target population are teen moms, because I was a teen mom. So that's my targeted population. But I will accept anybody. But I always ask them, like, what do they know about a doula, and like what are they expectations?
Yes.
Yeah, and then just before, because sometimes like being a doula and then like being a lactation specialist, like you can kind of just want to be in that moment of education all the time, like teaching. So it's kind of like being able to pull back and listen, asking more of those open-ended questions to pull out to get more from my families to better serve them.
Yes, absolutely. I think active listening is so important. That's why that's why I want to pull you into the conversation, because I don't like to be just one-sided talking. I feel like organic conversations are beautiful, and you can see where people are at. And sometimes, like you said, Candace, you can pull out information without asking them black and white questions. It's like, how do you feel about this? Really get to know, as somebody who wants to hire a doula, really get to know this person. You have to feel really comfortable about that person coming into your space, because that's an intimate, primal space that you're going into as a doula, and you as a mum who is coming in, hiring us. We want you to feel like, I'm so excited that my support person is coming into the room. My husband, my partner, whoever it is, grandma, whatever, is really excited about having us in that space. So I think that's really important for you to find, ask those questions when you find the doula. What we do with our company is we have an allocated doula. Once the family family will choose the doula, we don't allocate the doula, and then we spend some time relationship building with the family so that we really get to know them in that birth realm. I'm going to segue into what's the difference between a nurse and a doula. So basically, when you hire us, we're that consistency. A nurse, an OB, a midwife are all basically in the hospital setting. They're all on a rotation. So you may not get to see the provider that maybe you've spent 8 or 9 months with in that birth realm. So your doula is a consistent person that you already have an existing relationship. We know what you need in that time. We're very comfortable with the birthing process, so we're very intuitive, and we know the next thing that's going to happen. So a lot of times folks will say, you anticipated what I need, and I couldn't even speak it. I didn't even know what I needed, but I know I was warm and I needed some cold cloths on me, or I needed to drink some water, or I was having pain, and so you rolled me over and did all these kinds of things. So basically we're going to be it's a really love relationship that you should be able to have. I know we're providers and we're professionals, but I feel like it's a very intimate type of relationship that you're going to be having with the families that we're serving. And I want you all to feel really excited about the doula that you choose in your space. So like I said, so with a lot of people say, well, why do I need to hire a doula? Because I will have my OB, I will have my doctor, I will have my nurses. In where I'm from, what we generally have is a nurse will have 2 patients on any one shift, and their shifts are usually 12 hours. So they work a lot of hours, and they work very hard in those 12 hours. Nurses in our community love us as doulas because they know that we've trained you before. We go in and we make their job easier because we're there with you 24/7. So a nurse will have a couple of patients. So she will go in between 2 rooms. She will also be going out to the main desk, and they will watch a lot of the stuff that's happening with you in your room. If you are being monitored by a monitor on your belly, they'll be watching a lot of that out there in the area, not with you. I remember when I had my biggest takeaway when I had my first baby, and I had 5, was no one's in the room with me except for my husband, who's never done this before. I've never done this before. And I felt very isolated and very alone. I didn't know, is this baby going to fall out of my body in the next 10 minutes? I didn't know where I was in my birth realm. They would come in and check on me, but I felt, and they were very nice too, but I felt very much alone and isolated in that time. I like to give the analogy of a Netflix movie. So when we're with mums, we might say, hey, you're 2 inches into this 10-inch Netflix movie right now. You're still early from what we can tell, speaking to mums before we even meet them. So I think I think a lot of people want a finite timeline of what that looks like. We can never do that, but I think giving you an idea of, yep, you're still really early, but this is really good. This is one contraction over the other. We put that one in the pile. Let's look at it visually. You have 1 contraction, you got a pile here. I've had 20. I might have 100, or whatever it is. So giving you those kind of cues as well can be really helpful. But like I said, the nurse has multiple families that she's serving. A doctor usually comes in about every 4 hours. A lot of doctors are on 24-hour shifts. Some of them are on 12. But a doctor is going to be checking every 4 hours. If they are on a 24-hour shift, they actually like to sleep a lot when they're in the hospital too. If they've got a big hospital and multiple patients, they're going between rooms. So they're working very hard too. But I think that's the biggest one if you're not having a doula, is that you don't know who is going to be taking care of you, and there's going to be limited times. So with a doula in the room, usually when you get to pushing, you are going to be having the doula and the nurse will get you to where you're 10 centimeters, and at 10 centimeters you're going to be pushing with the nurse usually until you get to till basically you're ready, you're 10 centimeters, everything is ready to go. I won't get into too much detail. And then the doctor usually comes in. I'll say, okay, no pushing yet, or don't push anymore. And then the doctor will come in basically to deliver the baby's head, and the rest of the baby will follow on. So I think that's a big one, that, doulas are that continuity of care. We're not medical providers. We don't give you medical advice. We are there as I would say in a nicest way, a consultant, which sounds a little bit removed, but we're there to consult you. We're there to offer you choices. We're there to educate you and then help you make an informed decision from what we've popped out. So it's like, again, it's the cards on the table. These are the cards on the table. What do you want to do? We will never just give our advice, but if you ask, I would say, if I was in your situation, this is maybe something that I would choose at this point, or maybe we won't do anything. You get to choose. And I think that can be what looks like a positive birth experience, is for you to have the autonomy to make the decisions in your birthing time. So, we're not paying, but I think I've mentioned about backup. We will create for you. Most doulas will create a birth plan for you. I don't like to call them birth plans. I like to call them birth preferences. So with a plan, it's finite. You're building a concrete building. This is the plans, these are the blueprint. But birth isn't like that. We don't know what we're going to get until we get in there. So what I like to do is create a birth plan. It's usually a one-page, very simple creation for you. And it will outline the things that you want in your birth. So perhaps dad has a blood phobia. Maybe he is not comfortable with medical procedures. Maybe he had operations as a child and it creates trauma or stress for him or mum, whatever that looks like. So we want to see what that looks like and create a birth plan related to that. Usually they're quite succinct. A lot of people will create their own birth plan, and it's very flowery, lots of beautiful language like a poem, and they go 2 or 3 pages, and in the case of this, in the case of that. But honestly, when a nurse and a doctor read your birth plan, they want to know, okay, do I need to order medication? Does this mum eventually want does she want an epidural? We have to keep that standby. Does she want erythromycin, or does she want, well, I'll just make it easy, does she want eye ointment? Does she want vitamin K? Is she having hepatitis B, which are 3 other standard things that some babies have after they are born? So that's all they really need to know about what you want. And when I use the verbiage in a birth plan, if you're creating your own, I always say, not that we definitely want this. You have to use language that is not telling the providers off, but rather saying, we would prefer this, this, and this, rather than we want this, because then you might come off as a family that's wanting a lot, and one of those high stressed, high need patients, which nobody wants to come off as. How will a doula advocate for you? So like I was saying to Bree earlier, we don't actually advocate for you. What we do is we help you find your voice in that birthing time. We go over prenatally things that might be important to you. So when we come into that birthing space, we're very familiar with what you want, and then we can help to remind you, because when you're in the thick of meeting your baby, your body is changing, everything is doing what it, your body's doing what it needs to do. You're not thinking of all these questions you have. So for an example, if you've met your baby and you decided, I'd really like to have delayed cord clamping, which is an amazing thing. We always recommend that. And say the doctor goes to cut it, and I always write in my birth plans, please allow the cord to become white and loose, which all that blood that was in the placenta is about 33% volume of in the placenta needs to come back to the baby. That's, I could do a whole talk on that, but I won't get into that. But it's very important for that to for that placental blood to go into the baby. So if the doctor goes to cut it early, we would still say, I'm going to use you as an example, Rita. Hey, Rita and John, did you still want to have that delayed cord clamping? Do you still want us to wait until it becomes loose and white? And that way we're not telling off the doctor. We're we're reminding mum of her voice. So that's just an example of, how the doula can help you, because even dads, there's nothing going to prepare you for having a baby apart from having a baby. Even childbirth ed classes, are great. But until you're actually in it, it's going to be, real time learning. But I think that's important. Writing the birth plan. Are we, like I said, are we just for natural birth? No, we're not. We're there for all of the types of birth that you want. Another question a lot of people say is, do we take insurance? It depends on where you are in the country. So I'm not sure, Rita, if you have any input about where you are or anything like that, or if you've had experiences.
Well, I'm in the Michigan area. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm in Michigan, and yes, we actually offer doula services. So we've got a lot of doulas here in the Michigan area.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, which is really, really good. And they pay pretty good. So, I mean, even like some of the Medicaid plans, they pay pretty good for the doula service.
Excellent. Well, that's good. Yeah, I think they need to have that in all of the states,
They
but
do.
unfortunately, no.
Absolutely.
And so where we are, there are some very few doulas that do take benefits, or I think insurance is starting to get the program that they realize, oh, if these mums don't have insurance, then it's going to cost us more in interventions and epidurals or C-sections or whatever, it costs money for all of these procedures and things to go. So I think they're starting to get on the program, but you would just have to find out from your state, your OB, or your insurance check to see whether that's something that you can have accommodated, I think is important. Let me see. Oh, another question.
Bree, Eve or Bree, you have any questions, ladies, that you wanted to ask? Any questions? Okay.
No. No, Eve. Is Eve? Yeah, Eve's still there.
They got you on mute, Bree. We can't hear you.
Yeah. Whoa. Shoot, sorry. Oh, I said, no, I don't have it. Well, I mean, I've got questions, but I mean, I can wait until Helen's done with her presentation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll have a few more minutes and then we can ask some questions. Do insurance. What if my baby turns breech? So a lot of people will say, well, do I still need a doula if my baby turns into a breech position? Obviously, breech is where the baby's head is up here or it's sideways, transverse, etc. Yes, a doula can be fantastic. So a lot of hospitals will still have where the doula can support you in the OR. We can come into the OR with you. If your baby turns breech at 30 weeks, we can do a lot to help you. Like I said, we're not medical professionals, but there's a lot that a doula can do to help facilitate baby turning into the optimal position where her head is down. That can be with chiropractic, it can be with Miles circuit. There's a lot of different things out there to turn breech babies, even upside down in a swimming pool. I mean, crazy things, but they work. And usually a breech baby is, I think a lot of people want to check off boxes with a breech baby because right now, if you are breech in the hospital, they won't deliver vaginally. It's a automatic C-section. So a lot of people want to check boxes to say, no, I want to do as much as I can to see if we can get that baby to rotate and turn down, head down. So as a doula, we can do a lot of that. We work a lot with families who have breech babies, and we are able to successfully, through different modalities and different practitioners, allow that baby to come face down. So I think that's a big one too. People say, well, I don't really need to hire you because I'm going to have a C-section because my baby's breech. And I'm like, that's where we can help you. So we can still facilitate and help you in a C-section, but let's do all of the things to help. It's like if a sports person had an injury, okay, we need to rest this, we need to ice this, and we need to do this, and then you can go back into what you need to do. So let me see, insurance. What if my baby turns 3? What if my doula is unavailable? Again, that's where you will need to ask your doula when you interview her, what is your backup plan? Like I said, my team has inbuilt backup. Usually when I refer the doulas, they would talk to a couple of families each, and then they would decide on who the doula was. So if they choose doula A, doula B is going to be their backup, as long as they like doula B. So we have and then we're talking again. How many births a month? My team does 3 births a month. As a solo doula, I used to do 8 or 9 births a month, but I was crazy and my family life suffered. So I said, okay, I got to pull it back. So ask your doula, what does that look like? I always say to my doula, you can always say this to the doula, is your phone always charged? Do you have gas in your tank all the time?
Yeah.
Do you have your birth bag in your car? If you go to an event or a party and it's around my due date, do you have change of clothes in the car? I mean, this is all things that I teach my team to be always constantly ready. We had a baby at 24 weeks who was 3 months early. My doula was there and she went and had a birth for a 40-weeker the same week. So doulas are always on call. And another question you might want to ask is, when is your on-call period? Because a lot of doulas say, well, on-call from 36 weeks to 42 weeks, but we don't know when babies are going to come. So ask your doula that. And I encourage doulas, especially with my team, I encourage you you're always on call. A doula life we are not our own. We are definitely servants to our families, but we love it. We wouldn't have it any other way. And then what happens when baby is here? So after baby's here, we don't just leave you as doulas. We've built a relationship with you and we really want to continue that after the baby is here. So usually after the baby is here, we will check in with you on that first week to see how is breastfeeding going, how is that postpartum, period going, how is your bottom healing? If you have a C-section, how is that going? How is dad feeling? Any other siblings in the family? We really want to look at you holistically as a family, not just you've birthed a baby, how's the baby, and how are you? So we really want to take care of you afterwards. And then I didn't even cover, but there are birth doulas, there are postpartum doulas, there are sibling doulas, fertility doulas. There's a lot, but I know we weren't covering that today. So I think I've covered everything that I was going to cover, and sorry I spoke so quickly. And I did. I tried to.
Yeah, a lot of good information. Bree, if you have any other questions, you can, now the time you can ask.
Okay, I'm off mute this time. Yeah, so yeah, that was awesome. And you mentioned so many things that I'm like, oh wait, I want to learn more about.
Yeah, I know. It's like a teaser. It's like you can't really. I could go into each subject for an hour, but it's like I've got to try and cover as many bases as I can, and then keep you. Don't worry, you can reach out to me, Bree, if you want questions. I'll answer.
I know. So now, just curious, and I'm like, what else is there? Is there just like grocery doulas? Like, what else do you guys do? Okay, so
hospital packing lists, all that kind of stuff. There's so many things that we can help you with too. Yeah.
That is so, that's on. Yeah, it sounds like you honestly have it down, which is so cool to hear. Yeah, lucky number 13 years. Yeah, I bet. Okay, you mentioned a bunch of green flags. Well, not necessarily green flags, but questions to ask a doula. I was curious if they were like big red flags. So, like you mentioned, you had a team of people. When you interview them, like what are big red flags that you're like, you probably wouldn't go with them? Or even like, I mean, I know you mentioned like, is your phone always charged? Like those are, if they're like, oh, absolutely, then that would probably be green flags. But what are like the red flags? That's like,
as far as red flags for us as doulas, who the client, or a red flag for if you interview a doula and you're like, oh, I don't think I like her.
Yeah, if I interview a doula, like what would be red flags, answers that you probably, besides obvious answers to the questions like you already brought up, like, yeah, my phone's not always charged, or I'm not usually in my car, things like that.
Yeah, I think, excuse me, that you being able to reach out to your doula is really important. And it can be any time, but obviously if it's during the day, we usually say, hey, we're on call, so don't ask us to answer weird and wonderful questions at strange times of the day. But I think the most important, well, I'm going to talk to green flags and then get into red, is that you feel really excited when you're talking to that person, that she's excited about your birth process. I'm still excited. I don't even take births now. I'm still excited talking to you, and you're not even pregnant. So but you want to make sure, if the doula is, what are you looking for in that doula? Is it somebody who is very clinical? Do you want somebody who's very, do you want a mama bear? Do you want somebody who's really going to, do you want somebody like more, I'll say, do you want a birthing bestie? Or do you want a motherly maternal person? Or you want a mixture of both? They should be both. But it's important for you to, if you interview somebody and you're like, she checks all the boxes as far as she's available, she's very qualified. But if you don't feel, I feel like the intuition, you already, before you're even a mum, you have a mother gut, you have intuition. Listen to that. So if you don't feel good, a lot of people say interview 3 doulas and then choose one. I tell my mums, look, if you talk to the first doula and you love her, you don't have to interview the second one. If you really love that person, if it's taking away, again, it's advocating for yourself. If you take away, like if you say, I'm calling for an electrician, and you talk to the guy and he goes, da, 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 this is the price, this is that. Yeah, you don't usually, I mean, I don't. I'm like, if he sounds like, okay, he's doing what I need and the price is okay, go for it. So I feel like, that intuition with somebody. I feel like if they have a very short call availability, if they're really restrictive, I only talk on Tuesdays and Thursdays or whatever, you have those, you're an emotional being when you're pregnant. So having somebody that is able to, respond, not necessarily straight away, but in a quick manner. My doulas who are the most popular are the ones who respond quickly. It might be say, hey, can't talk right now, let me call you back, is everything okay? So I think being somebody responsive. So red, green flag, if they're not responsive, not great. I wouldn't say even having somebody that has had a million births. I've had doulas who've had one birth with me and have a phenomenal birth. I've had doulas who've got 1,000 births under their belt. So the attunement is important. Do you feel comfortable? Do you, Bree, feel comfortable having a doula who's maybe had 10 births, or do you feel more comfortable having a doula who's had 100 births? So, you ask those questions. If they have a lot of away dates, if they have other priorities, a lot of doulas have daytime jobs and they work, they work whatever. So ask them, are you available to drop at the hat, be able to come and support me? If they tell you in detail about their birth story and they're going to save you from the same thing that happened to them, that is a red flag to me, because you should not bring your birth bias into anybody else's experience. You can bring your empathy and think, I know what you're feeling, or when you're in there, I know how you're feeling, but you can't bring that in previously. Some doulas, I know some doulas that I have not hired, who will go in to say, I had this terrible experience, so I want to save mums. When somebody says they want to save you, big red flag.
Wow.
Right.
So yeah, no one can save you. You are the author. You are the captain of this ship. We're there to help you with that big old steering. We're the rudder. We're going to help you to position yourself for the best birth possible. So we're not going to take over. We're not there to, do that. You are it. You and your husband are it.
That's awesome advice. Yeah, I'm super surprised on that last one, because I would have been like, oh, that sounds good. But that your perspective on, that save thing actually does kind of change it a lot. The second thing I was wondering was, you mentioned in the beginning about unmedicated and medicated births, and I was just kind of curious how how preparation changes between if it's going to be unmedicated and medicated, because I know it can change. So I just wasn't sure if someone was planning to be unmedicated, if during the prenatal experience, do doulas just typically work on like position changing and those breathing techniques, or do you just pretty much do the exact same thing like you would for someone planning on being medicated, but you just say like, hey, in case you decide not to, like, this is what we're gonna do?
We cover everything in our prenatal because we don't want to go in. And to me, I say to my families, I don't want you to feel disappointed in yourself or the expectation of what your birth should look like. So I say we're the queens of pivoting. If you change your mind, like I said, the birth preferences rather than a birth plan, we want to go in a little bit fluid. So when we come to you, we'll teach you about, like, we have childbirth ed classes, so we go into that comprehensively, but we cover, if you do want to have an epidural, when should you get it? If you want to go unmedicated, what does that look like? How do we facilitate that? So that would be a lot more, you're doing a lot more meditation, a lot more breathing work, a lot more position changes, things like that. Doing unmedicated, there'll be more of, obviously, if you have an epidural, you can't go in the bath. So talking about when to have a bath, those pressure points, all that. So we go over that prenatally so that you're as comfortable and familiar with all of these things going in. Saying that, we may prepare you, and I'll say a red flag with the mum. If a mum says, I don't want to know about a C-section, I don't want to know about epidurals, I'm going to go in there knowing that I can do this, that's a red flag for me as a doula, because that's not a realistic expectation when you're having a baby in a medicalized and curated, basically, birth experience. So, you want to make sure that everybody's a little bit kind of fluid. But yeah, we'll go over everything in a prenatal, and then you put in what you want to. So, additionally, you would do a class. You may want to do some pelvic floor. You may want to do chiropractic care. We work very closely with those folks. So that's not just you're hiring a doula and she's going to do everything. We're going to facilitate, and we're like a Swiss Army knife to say, yes, maybe you're a gymnast. You have a very tight pelvic floor. We're going to work on breath work to allow that trampoline to soften and come back. We may send you to a pelvic floor specialist or something like that if you're having any other issues or baby's not positioned correctly. So there's a lot that we can do to facilitate you. But it's like anything, what you put into it, you get out of it. So if you do the work, can't guarantee you'll have an unmedicated birth, but right. If the more you work and the more, honestly, visualization to me is a huge thing. Our brain is plastic. It's always changing. It's malleable. So if you tell yourself and listen to all the terrible birth stories, then you're more susceptible to listen to them. But if you're like, I'm going to have a great birth, I do it every night. I'm going to have a great sleep today. I'm going to have a great day. I'm going to help out, serve our families. Going to love my children. Going to do this, whatever. I think putting it out there into the universe is definitely helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Because I always just feel like the worst births are the one people, always try to talk about. I don't know. Like, I'm hoping things get better, but I just feel like everyone's like, oh yeah, I nearly died, and I'm like,
yeah, unfortunately, people are well-meaning, but you don't want to hear. I just say, when somebody's saying that, I just say, oh, la 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 la.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh great. They're like, oh yeah, me too. And I'm like, is this the 1700s? Like, has nothing. Yeah. I mean, we're here now, so I'm like, if anything, I just like tell myself, well, medicine got, they're still here, so they get through it. But I just think that I really want someone that's super knowledgeable. I know that you guys are in North Carolina, so I know you mentioned like different ways of like finding people and stuff. I feel, for me, I get grounded with information.
Yeah.
Also,
so where are you, Brett? Where are you?
Wichita, Kansas. But I do have family all in North Carolina. So.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Wichita. You know what? I will do some research, because I know a lot of doulas. I know some agency owners in different places. So I'm going to ask for you, and I'll find out some recommendations for you so that you can
Yeah, so then I can put the pressure on this to be like, hey, listen, everything's lined up, husband. Like, come on now.
This is
And
a
you can
game
fly me
plan.
out. You can fly me out to Kansas. I don't think I've been there before.
Hey, I'm not. Actually, I think I'd prefer North Carolina, but
There you go.
here we're just super flat. At least I can be like, hey, go to the beach and take pictures of new baby by
There
the
you
beach
go.
and
Yeah.
woods or something. Yeah,
Awesome.
that's super awesome though that you're doing that. That's cool. But I think that's all my questions that I had.
All right. All right. Well, I know it's we've got maybe one more minute. It's almost 7 o'clock. So I do want to thank you, Miss Helen, for coming out and and helping us out on this topic of how to pick the right doula, right? Because there's so many doulas out there, but you want to pick the right one, especially the one that you kind of like connect with on an energetic level. Energy to me is key. The vibrations will match up and you'll feel comfort in your spirit that this is the right person. So
yes, I like to give the analogy of a desert island. Who would you like to be stuck on a desert island with when you're picking your doula? Like, oh, okay,
absolutely.
yeah, no. So yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely.